guys, Christy Arnett here for Card Player TV, and I'm reporting with Reporter, the winner of the $1,500 buy-in No Limit Hold'em 6-handed event. Thank you so much for coming in, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Come on, have you heard that joke before?
Yes.
Yes. Dang it,
Maybe third grade, second grade.
I thought it was going to be original there, but I guess there are other clever people out there. So let's talk about the event. Going into the event, what kind of experience do you have with shorthanded play?
Well, I play a lot of short limit hold'em. That's the game I usually prefer. But I played the 2 6-max tournaments last year, the 1500 and the 2500, and I played deep in both of them. And both times I got all my money in good and got beat. But I felt very competitive in that environment. I felt like playing 6-max, there were a lot more decisions to be made, and it felt like it really kept the pressure on the players to make good choices over and over. And I feel very comfortable in my decision making, so I felt like it was a good event for me in that regard. And I was actually, that was one of the events that I really wanted to focus on this year. And so it turned out good.
Yeah. And what's the biggest and most important thing that players do wrong when they play shorthanded?
I think a lot of players really downgrade their starting requirements and take the approach that aggression will carry the day in shorthanded poker. And it's not necessarily the case. I always view it as, if you're playing shorthanded, it's like the first few people folded. And so I play it just like I would a ring game, except for I consider myself to be fourth to act and the first 3 people fold instead of being under the gun. And I use the same starting requirements I would in that regard. And it keeps you from being overly aggressive in those situations, and it keeps your hand values more in line with how it should be, I think. So.
Okay, what was your road to the final table like?
My road to the final table.
Were you short stacked or?
Well, very, very early I was short stacked. I sat down right away and actually doubled up like the third hand, but then this other young man at my table doubled up, and then he doubled up through me again, and I had like 1,400 chips when you start with 3,000 in halfway through the second level. And I managed to, I guess it was right at the beginning, right on break I had that, and the first break. And then I managed to run it up the first day, and by the dinner break I had 47,000. And then after the dinner break I went on a big rush, and I ended the day second in chips with 137, I think, at the end of day one. And
so when you double up early, and then you lose a big pot, how do you get back into that and try and get your momentum back? Because
yes. It's easy for the rest of the table to feel like you're going to be out of line and for them to try to lean on you. But, if you get too short, then you only have the short stack game. That's all you have left, right? So it's not like you can open and they can re-raise you. You're pushing aggressively right away. The blinds at that point were 100, 200, and I had 1,400, and I managed to get him in, and the guy called me, and I had him dominated, and so I won a little race there. And then all of a sudden, the equilibrium kind of comes back once you win that first pot, and the rest of the table doesn't really look at you like you have blood in the water all around you, So, yeah, and that settled out, and I picked up a few hands. And
cool. So when the final table started, how were you in chips?
I was third in chips. I had about 20% of the chips in play, so I guess average was 600, and I had 730 or something like that. So.
What did you think of your final table opponents going into it?
They were all professional poker players, and I had played with Devin Porter was at my opening table. I know John Conkright from the Commerce. I've seen him play there, and I'm familiar with this game.
And he was the chip leader. Right?
He was the chip leader, and he was on my right, which was fine. I didn't mind having the big stack in front of me. The gentleman behind me, Mikhail Blumenhaus, I don't know how to say his last name. He's a nice guy, but he had a lot of chips. He was very aggressive. I played with him a lot on day 2, and he was the guy I was most worried about just because he's sitting behind me, and he's got more chips than me, and he's very aggressive and competent. And then behind him, Anatoly, I played with the day before, and I had not played with Nate, but one of my friends had played with him and kind of given me the lowdown on what he thought, so that's always helpful.
Can you share with us what he told you?
No.
No? Okay.
It'd be inappropriate. So I felt okay at the final table. I felt like everyone was professionals, and that several of the people were very aggressive, and that though we had a lot of chips relative to the blinds, I felt like the first 3 levels we were not going to be feeling a lot of pressure from the blinds. And then once we got up into levels, 4, 5, and 6 for the day, that's when the blinds would actually start catching up to the chip stacks. And aside from the big confrontations with McKeel early, the play settled out like that. And
you had big confrontations with him?
I had like hand 23 or 24 relatively early. I had 2 kings on the button, and I opened, and he re-raised from a small blind, and I put the third raise in the 4th bet, and then he shoved all in, and I called him, and he had the ace queen of hearts, and we had to just hold on and make sure our 68% came in.
Yeah.
Because you get 2 kings, second best hand, you put all your money in, you're 68%. It's like,
right.
So
So
I was a little nervous.
When you're on the button and you're shorthanded, he probably did he just not believe you? I mean, even though Ace Queen is a really strong starting hand, once you put that third raise in there, he just...
Yeah, he said in his interview, I heard him say in his interview that he wasn't quite sure where it was at, but he was really used to playing shorthanded and getting them all in there with the Ace Queen suited. That the hand really doesn't play that poorly, even unless you're against aces. You know, you're still... You know, he's 32% against kings, so he's not in bad shape there. And if he's against ace king, he's, 29 or 30, somewhere right there, because he's suited as well. And so, his hand doesn't play that badly in those situations, even when he's wrong. And so, I mean, not that surprised he put his money in with it there. I knew when I put the third raise in, I had a big hand, right? But, he doesn't know. And he knew I'd played with him the day before, and I was relatively aggressive the day before. And I'm sure that was crossing his mind. It was early at the final table. Everyone's trying to send a statement, I'm the one who's going to take control. And I'm sure that he considered that a little bit and thought maybe I might be a little weak in that spot. But I don't know. But it was still scary when he rolled it over.
No ace one time.
I called him first and rolled my hand over, and he kind of leaned back in his chair, and I was like, oh, he's got queens or jacks, And it's such a big difference being 81% or 82% versus 68%. So, but...
Were you chip leader after that hand?
I was chip leader after that hand. I had 1.5 million, and for a long time I had close to half the chips. I got up to close to 2 million. I knocked Mikhail out a little later, and then I won another pot from Anatoly, and I was up over 2 million. There was 3.7 in play when there were 4 of us. And I had that for a long time. And the play was very slow, and Devin double threw me at one point, and then I still floated between 1.4 and 1.8 while there were 4 of us playing for what seemed like hours. And then finally went to dinner break, and we came back, and the blinds got kicked up again, and there was enough, pressure that it started moving some chips around, and things got more interesting.
So how is Nathan Templeton as a heads-up opponent?
Well, it's really hard to judge. I mean, there was basically one hand, right? And he thought I was making a move on him, and he put the pressure back on me by going all in, and I had enough to call, and so that was fortunate,
Right.
But when we came back from dinner, and Nathan played very aggressive, and I thought very well after dinner, and put the pressure, and everybody was doing a nice job of building up, and he survived, during the day earlier when he needed to, and then he started putting the pressure on when it seemed like the right time to do so. So I thought he played well, and then I got lucky the first hand, the first confrontation we have, and that's a big one.
Right.
So.
For the bracelet.
Yes.
So you've cashed in, 10 events in the last
4 years? 4 years,
4 years? So it's finally nice to put one on your wrist,
right? Oh,
right?
it's really nice. I came in fourth in a limit hold'em event at the World Series, which is, my forte, and that was really frustrating because I felt like it was such a good opportunity, and, they don't come up that often when you get to the final little bit. And I came in second in a circuit event, and they were second in the circuit event. We played heads up for 4 hours. It's just grueling, and you fight, and you fight, and you fight, and then finally there's one big confrontation, and you both have something that's just a little better, and you're like, ugh. And so it felt so good to have
that number one
spot.
spot.
Yes, and it was short, and I never had to sweat, and so that just it felt great, and it was an unbelievable feeling. So.
Great. Well, congratulations again. And like you said, your specialty is limit hold'em, and the $10,000 championship is today. So we'll let you get out of here.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, Rhett.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Chris Arnett with Rhett Porter for Card Player TV.